Welcome back, Shavasti.
Thank you.
Good to see you today. Today's topic is about healing the relationship to our wound. And I'm curious, when clients come to you and they say, look, I've got this wound and I want to get rid of it, how do you respond to that?
Well, first of all, many people do approach it from, I want to get rid of it. I want to get rid of my wound. And why not? If the wound is causing suffering, either emotional pain or dysfunction in your life, then surely one would want to get rid of it. But that's really not how it works. And so I really talk about transforming our relationship to the wound, because there's always a positive aspect of any wounding that we have. And so it's about building up a relationship, first of all, of consciousness and awareness around the wound, and then looking at what it actually brings. What is the gift? What does the wound deliver? And so I talk about 3 stages of relationship to the wound. First of all, the wound is our burden. That's when it's just a heavy weight in our life, and we're totally, or almost totally, unconscious of how it is impacting our life. Often when we have a wound around which we are not conscious, then we're stuck in blame. Oh, it happened to me again. Oh, it's happening again. Those people did it to me again. And so we often get stuck in blame. Or we simply notice that relationships are not working. Or my career is not working. There's some aspect of our life that continually fails, or goes belly up, or is just not fulfilling. And it's the same pattern and the same thing over and over and over again. And then we start becoming conscious of it, because we go, well, hang on a second. This same thing has now been happening for X amount of years, or for a couple of decades, or ever since I've been doing this, or ever since I've been here. And so we start then to become conscious of it. And we begin to realize, oh, yesterday when I was talking to that person, my feelings with regards to my father, they were triggered. And so I brought that into that interaction with that individual. And so we have consciousness, but the consciousness comes normally after the event, normally comes in retrospect. And then we begin to see, oh, last week, that was all about my mother. That had nothing to do with the woman that I was talking to. Or that's got to do with my first husband. Or that's got to do with my high school sweetheart, that one. She was the one who betrayed me. She's the one who cheated on me. So now I'm going to treat every woman that I meet as if she's a potential cheater. And so we begin to become conscious of it's called transference, of how we project onto others the expectations based upon our wound in the past. And then we know that retrospectively. So that is when our wound becomes our teacher. So first of all, it's a burden, because we have no idea what's going on. We just know that things are not working, and we're often stuck in blame, and we often feel like a complete victim. This is all happening to me. We don't understand yet that we are vibrational beings, and therefore anything that is unresolved within our field is then vibrationally drawn to us. We create our reality, we create our world according to our vibration. Now, those people who have learnt all about the law of attraction are trying to do this from their minds. Well, if I just think good thoughts, then everything is going to look good, and don't realize why it's either impermanent or not quite as good as they want it to be. And so what is here with the wound, when the wound is unrecognized, and when the pain behind the wound is avoided, and some human beings, myself included in the past, will do anything to avoid pain, emotional pain. Will go to great lengths to avoid that. Chase after the light, chase after objects, etc. And so when the wound is in the unconscious area, or the unwilling area, unwilling to look, unwilling to feel, then it becomes a burden. And then we're often stuck in victimhood and blame. So as it becomes our teacher, we begin to recognize patterns. Oh, yeah, that's what happened last week. Oh, that's what got activated. Oh, I'm seeing this as part of the same pattern. Oh, I'm really beginning to see that the drama of my childhood is being played out in my corporate life. Or the drama of my childhood is being played out with my intimate partner. Or the drama of my childhood is being played out with all my friends. And so the wound then, after it is a teacher, it then becomes our companion. And so that's very different. And to some people that very concept is foreign, because surely the wound is something that's really bad and we need to get rid of it. I think the gecko just agreed with me. He says, So the wound then becomes our companion. Because why? So the wound is the point of suffering. It's where we locked an essential part of ourselves away. And the wound is around, or the distorted behavior is around defending that very tender, sore place that's been locked away. The thing that we've not wanted to feel, ever. I often say to my clients, if there were just one thing that you have spent your entire life running from, what would it be? And very often they come up with something like the feeling that I'm worthless, or that I'm ugly, or that I'm unwanted, or that I'm unlovable, or that I'm wrong, or that I'm bad. And so to work with what happened to cause you, cause us, cause me, cause you to draw that conclusion. And so within that is great suffering. And so as the wound becomes our companion, it also becomes the foundation of the renewed, compassionate human being. You wouldn't want your wound to go away. You wouldn't want to. So if you have no wound, if there is nothing there to inform you of what it is to be a human being, how can you relate with other human beings? Not that I'm suggesting that we all join a particular misery club so we can commiserate with each other. That's not what I'm talking about. Because there are a lot of friendships that are built on the wound, you know. We're in the abandoned by my mother club. We're in the alcoholic father club. We're in the given up at birth club. We're in the mixed race and suffering because of that club. Or we're in this club and that club and et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not talking about that, but as our journey with the wound matures from unconscious burden to conscious teacher, it then becomes our companion. Because then when we're in interaction with someone, it can be triggered, but we breathe through it and say, well, I'm not sitting in front of my mother right now. We have the conversation with ourselves in a split second in the moment. And then we can look at who is really there. We can see beyond the projection. Yeah, so he acts a little bit like my dad. Or she reminds me a little bit of my first fiancé. Or he reminds me a little bit of my brother. And then realizing, well, we don't need to go there. They don't have to pay the price for all of that. And so when it's our companion, we can then gently say to the person, if their behavior or what they're saying feels offensive or invasive or difficult for us, to just gently say to them, I'm not so comfortable with that at the moment. So it's a very different place. Or to completely ignore it because in fact it's rather innocuous. It's just our projection that's getting in the way. And just to breathe through it and say, well, so this is what's happening with me right now. So let me then choose to go to my center and allow that to inform me. To allow that to inform me as to how to respond to this person. And so there's a big journey there. And so some wounds teach us compassion. Other wounds teach us leadership. Other wounds teach us the ability to heal others. Other wounds teach us how to be teachers. And so whatever it was that the wound gave you, so when we look at our wounding, we also need to look at what was the result of that, or what was the big component part of that. So perhaps we were bound in shame. And so how is it then to be the presence that helps others to step out of their shame as we step into our light? Perhaps we were bound by fear, or loyal to hatred or self-hatred. And so whatever it was that the wound gave us, it gives us an ability to be the presence of its opposite, to be the presence of truth, to be the presence of love, to be the presence of magnificence, to be the presence of compassion. And so the wound, in fact, is our guru. It is, I would suggest, the thing that we bow to with deep respect, not only to our own wound, but to the wounds of others. We could not become renewed, compassionate human beings without the presence of our wound. It's not possible.
Do we have only one wound?
No. Well, yes and no. I would say that the ultimate wound is separation from self. And that self, I mean self with a capital S. The eternal self, the divine self. Us, our experience of being separate from that which is eternal. You can call that God if you want. And so there are multiple wounds that took place at different developmental stages. So there are wounds that take place when we are babies. There are wounds that take place as we are trying to individuate and become individuals. And there are wounds that take place in teenage years. It all really depends what happened when. But yes, we have multiple wounds and we have one core wound. And the basic core wound of all human beings is separation. The wound of separation. Being separate from our own essential self, which is always here, which is ever present, which is the silent witness. And yet we have all this stuff going on, all of these images that we're chasing, that in fact separate us from the wound and separate us from the self. And so engaging with our wound and seeing the wound as our ally will take us on a journey to the separated self quicker than any other way that I know. So we're back to the 3 levels of healing. So there are many who focus on the transpersonal aspect, living in the upper chakras, and never reach there. Because the ego cannot become enlightened. Because the ego acts out of its woundedness, and so therefore if we meet the wound is the piece of coal that is surrounding the diamond. And the diamond is everything. It's where it is. It's where the self is. And that's what we go for. So the wound is good. It's our friend. It's our companion. It's our teacher. And it leads us straight to God.
Thank you.